You spent 2 weeks preparing. You researched the company, you practiced your answers, you picked the right outfit, you showed up early, you smiled at the right moments, you answered every question clearly and confidently. And at the end, the interviewer leaned forward and said, "This went really well. We'll be in touch soon." You walked out feeling good, maybe even great. Then, nothing. A week passes, then 2. Then you get the email. "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." No explanation, no feedback, just a polite door closing in your face. And you're left sitting there wondering what went wrong. Because from where you were sitting, that interview went well. You did everything right. Here's what nobody tells you. The interview is not one game. It's 3 games running at the same time. And most people only know one of them exists. They prepare for the questions. They don't prepare for the other 2. And those are the ones that decide whether you get the offer. Today, we are talking about job interviews. Not the advice you've already heard. Not research the company and bring a copy of your resume. We're talking about what is actually happening inside an interview room. What interviewers are actually evaluating, and the specific mistakes that kill your chances without you ever realizing it. We're covering the 3 invisible filters every interviewer runs you through, the 5 mistakes that disqualify you silently, and exactly what to do differently starting with your next interview. Let's get into it.
When you walk into an interview, you think you're being evaluated on your qualifications, your experience, your answers. And yes, that matters. But that is only the surface layer. Underneath it, the interviewer is running 3 separate filters simultaneously, and most candidates have no idea 2 of them exist. Filter 1. Can you do the job? This is the one everyone prepares for. Your skills, your experience, your answers to behavioral questions. This is the official game, the one on paper. And here's the uncomfortable truth. By the time you're sitting in that chair, most candidates have already passed this filter. You got the interview because your resume said you could do the job. The interview is not confirming that. It's deciding between people who can all do the job. Filter 2. Will you cause problems? This one runs silently underneath every single question. Interviewers are not just listening to your answers. They are listening for red flags. Anything that signals you might be difficult to manage, hard to work with, unpredictable, or a liability. A slight edge when you talk about a former boss. A vague answer when they ask why you left your last role. A moment of defensiveness when they challenge something you said. These register instantly, and they rarely get discussed out loud. They just quietly tip the scale. Filter 3. Do I want to work with you? This is the most invisible filter and the most powerful one. People hire people they like, not because they're shallow, because they spend 8 hours a day with this person and comfort matters. This filter gets updated every time you walk through a door. How you greet the receptionist, how you carry yourself while you wait, how you respond when something unexpected happens, whether you make the conversation feel like an interrogation or an exchange. The interviewer is asking themselves one question, underneath all the others. Is being around this person easy, or is it work? And they are answering that question the entire time you are in the building. Mistake 1. Answering the question they asked instead of the question behind it. Every interview question has 2 layers, the surface question and the real question underneath it. When they ask, "Tell me about a time you failed," they are not asking you to confess. They are asking whether you have self-awareness and whether you can learn from difficulty without falling apart. When they ask, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" they are not asking about your career dreams. They are asking whether you're going to leave in 8 months the second something better comes along. Most candidates answer the surface question and completely miss the real one. The ones who get offers understand what is actually being asked and answer that. Mistake 2. Talking too much. There is a version of a good answer, and then there is what happens when anxiety takes over. You finish the answer, and then you keep going. You add context that wasn't asked for. You fill the silence because silence feels uncomfortable. And every extra sentence after the right stopping point chips away at the impression you just made. Interviewers do not reward length. They reward clarity. A tight, specific, confident answer lands harder than a long, wandering one every single time. Mistake 3, bad-mouthing a former employer. This one feels obvious, but it shows up in subtle ways people miss. You don't have to say, "My last boss was terrible," for this to damage you. All it takes is a slight bitterness in your voice when you explain why you left, a loaded pause before you answer, a carefully worded criticism that still reads as a criticism. Interviewers are not thinking about your former boss. They are thinking about themselves. They are thinking about the day you leave this company and sit across from someone else and talk about them. And if you sound like someone who does that, you become a risk they don't want to take. This is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. Having no questions signals one of two things. Either you didn't prepare, or you don't actually care. Neither one helps you. The questions you ask at the end of an interview are not just questions. They are evidence of how you think. Ask about what success actually looks like in this role in the first 90 days. Ask what the biggest challenges facing the team right now. Ask what separates the people who thrive here from the ones who don't. These questions do two things simultaneously. They give you real information, and they make you memorable. Mistake 5, treating the interview as a one-way evaluation. The biggest mental shift you can make going into any interview is this. You are not auditioning. You are having a mutual evaluation. They are deciding if they want you. You are deciding if you want them. When you walk in already in that frame of mind, everything changes. Your posture changes. Your energy changes. The way you ask questions changes. You stop performing and start engaging. And that shift is detectable. It reads as confidence. It reads as someone who knows their own value. And that is exactly the energy that makes interviewers want to say yes. First, prepare for all 3 filters, not just one. Before every interview, run through 3 questions. What specific examples show I can do this job? What in my history could read as a red flag? And how do I address it cleanly? And what can I do to make this conversation feel like a genuine exchange instead of an interrogation? Second, research the real problems, not just the company facts. Anyone can memorize the company's mission statement. What separates strong candidates is showing up with an understanding of what the team is actually dealing with. Read recent press. Look at how long the role has been posted. Look at the team on LinkedIn. Come in with context. Come in with relevant insight. Come in with something that shows you were thinking about their problems before they asked you to. Third, control the narrative on the hard questions. You already know the hard questions are coming. Why did you leave your last role? Tell me about a time you failed. What's your biggest weakness? These are not surprises. They are scheduled. Prepare a version of each answer that is honest, controlled, and forward-looking. Not scripted, prepared. There is a difference. Scripted sounds like a performance. Prepared sounds like someone who knows themselves. Fourth, follow up specifically. Most candidates send a generic thank you email. Great meeting you. Looking forward to hearing from you. That email does nothing. A follow-up that references a specific moment from the conversation, connects something they said to something you bring, or adds a thought you didn't get to finish in the room. That follow-up keeps you in the conversation. It shows investment. It makes you harder to forget. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The most qualified person in the room does not always get the offer. The person who understands what is actually being evaluated does. Your resume got you the interview. What happens in that room is an entirely different game, with different rules. And most people walk in prepared for the version of the game that exists on paper. Now you know all 3 versions. Understand the 3 filters. Eliminate the 5 silent mistakes. Prepare for the real questions behind the questions. Make the conversation feel mutual and follow up like someone who actually wants the role. The interview is not a test of what you know. It is a test of how well you understand what they actually need. And that is a game you can absolutely win.
If this gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening in that room, smash that like button and subscribe. We drop content like this every single week. Drop a comment below. Tell me the interview mistake that cost you a job. I read every single one. See you in the next one.